If you're an empath, sensitive, or intuitive, and you relate to feeling so much, taking on the energy of the world, one of the root issues underneath this pattern isn't that we're necessarily taking on and feeling so much, it's that we're not feeling enough of self, which is fueled by your soul. And the soul needs nourishment in order to be able to have boundaries in the world and a strong sense of self. The soul needs the sacred. Empaths need the sacred. And without the sacred, your energy becomes porous and reactive and probably very easily overwhelmed. So for empaths, the sacred is not a luxury, it's the foundation to your energetic boundaries and your inner peace. I'm Wendy DeRosa, and I'm going to share with you why the sacred is essential for empaths. So, first of all, let's define the sacred. So, the sacred ultimately means anything, any experience that connects you to the divine. It can be religious in if you have a religious practice, and it doesn't have to be religious. It is about your internal connection between yourself and the divine. I've shared a lot in my videos about the central channel and the pathway in the body where we receive higher life force and we receive earth connection. And the sacred is ultimately what is going to bring us into the center of our being and open up this pathway between our hearts and the divine realm. It also can be the experience of the extraordinary or a sense of deep worthiness and respect, and it can be a sense of awe, something that's unspoken. Awe is that I don't have words for it. That's awe. It's the experience that shakes us, wakes us up, inspires a deep, powerful breath, but we have no words for what we are experiencing. And why sensitive or empathic people resonate with the sacred so much comes down to some fundamental aspects of the empath. So, thinking about the empath, they feel deeply, right? They are on this planet to take us to deeper places. They are here either with language or expression or representation of some sort that takes us beneath the surface. So think of it this way, if you have, coffee with an empath doesn't want to know the weather. They don't want to talk, they don't want to dwell at the surface and have the surface conversations. If they want to know how you're doing, they want to know how you're doing. They want to get down deep into the core heart to be able to build connection, because that's a very powerful skill set for the empath, is that they are very much connectors. Where empaths lose their center is when they lose connection with themselves, and then they aren't able to stay in their own body energetically. They start to merge, and that has more to do with connecting to themselves and staying grounded in themselves. I'll share more about that. I've talked a lot about it in my book, Becoming an Empowered Empath. But so essentially, the empath and the sensitive needs the sacred because it is that aspect that meets them on a very deep level. It speaks to the unspoken. The empaths have learned how to navigate the unspoken, often in childhood environments when we're raised and there's energy flying around and no one's taking ownership for it, or saying, honey, that's mine, that's not yours. You get to be the child, I get to be the adult here. When that energy around us isn't claimed or named, or we're not, our experiences aren't validated, we're navigating the unspoken. So what happens for empaths is that they really do need sacred experiences to take them into deep places inside them. And that is ultimately the process of coming from the periphery of their body in consciousness to going deep into the center of the heart, the center of the central channel. I'll share more about the energetic experience in a moment. But I want to say a few things about why the empaths struggle without the sacred. what will happen, so empaths naturally are more open energetically. They have a very sensitive nervous system, which means that they may have responses to subtler cues. Not much is needed sometimes for an empath. They can pick up the vibration, they can feel the subtle emotion, and sometimes the subtle thoughts. So without spaces that feel enriched or feel intention filled, they can sense the energy that will start to occupy that space in place of unclaimed energy. So I'll give you an example. If I had in my bedroom, let's just say a bedroom, and I had in the corner an empty place, an empty space, and I didn't know what to put in that space. I thought I'll get to it at some point. Something will fill that space. I'm not sure what. And so over time, my dirty laundry ends up getting thrown into that corner. And it ends up piling up. And if I were sensitive, maybe I start to get overwhelmed by accumulation of clutter. That can be common for empaths to get overwhelmed by disorderly space or energy that's kind of not congruent in a space. And so they might feel, all of a sudden I might start to feel like, wow, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm starting to feel cluttered because I didn't actually put something in that space that had meaning for me. So the sacred is ultimately connection, what's going to help you feel soulfully sourced and connected to the divine or connected to something bigger than you, the light, the universal consciousness, God. And so oftentimes it doesn't have to be, a whole altar in that space, although sometimes that would be really great to have, something divine. Like I have an altar in my spaces, and they're simple, but they're ways in which I can go there, and it invokes a sense of prayer. It invokes a thought. It invokes a sense of a deep breath, a way in which I can close my eyes and reconnect and feel sourced in that moment. So it can be something elaborate, and it can be something very simple to put in an area that is claimed. We claim that space. We name it as a sacred area in our environment. So empaths will need moments of sacred and often sacred spaces in order to feel a sense of reprieve and peace and grounding inside themselves. Moments of sacred can look like lighting a candle. I had this practice where I would, every day I'd light a candle, and that candle would be symbolic for praying for people in my life, my family or loved ones, people who were going through something. And I would light it for inner light, my inner light, people's inner light. It would be a symbol that I would offer every single day. It was just lighting the candle, and it meant something to me. And each day I could say something, or sometimes I didn't need to because I had already set the intention of what lighting that candle meant. So you could have a ritual, a practice like that. A sacred moment is a meditation in the morning. A sacred moment is pausing to look at the sunset or the sunrise. A sacred moment is, putting on some music that can help you, sacred music that can help you come back to your center and align and take some deep breaths. And it can help shift the vibration for you. As an empath, you're sensitive, you're energetically sensitive, and music is a vibration itself that can purify, that can uplift, that can energize, it can really invoke within what you might need to feel, again, more soulful and connected to yourself. So without the sacred space, our boundaries can collapse if we don't have that. Keeping in mind my explanation of the clutter in the corner, intuition can become muddled when we feel chaotic. We can get exhausted and overwhelmed. Sometimes people get sleepy, tired when they're around funky energy. And sometimes everything can just feel like too much. It can feel toxic. Again, if we don't claim the space around us, or we don't set that space or find moments of sacred in our day-to-day life. So here's what's happening on an energetic level in the body. Empaths will often process energy lower in through the lower chakras of the body, the lower emotional centers. We certainly process through the heart, but we're conscious oftentimes of the heart, and we're not always conscious of what the lower energy centers are picking up on in the world around us. Again, I talked a lot about this in my book, Becoming an Empowered Empath, and in previous videos. We do often feel beneath the table, and that energy is energy that we will sometimes absorb or become unconscious to. It will be part of our subconscious, what we become attuned to subconsciously. So, without grounding or sacred presence, our bodies can stay in a reaction mode or even a hypervigilant mode. We can be attuned to what everybody needs around us, paying attention to that, wanting to meet those needs in spite of ourselves or sometimes in disconnection from ourselves. And the sacred is a coherence. Our hearts have a coherence. And when we immerse ourselves in a coherence of vibration that the sacred evokes, it can automatically bring our entire energy system into a coherence. Think about it. If you walked into a temple, you walked into a sacred space, and all of a sudden you started to feel peace. There was intention filled in that space. There was prayer offered in that space. The sacred was evoked or invoked within that space. And that becomes the coherence that our energy body will immerse in and respond to, that will help then on a subtle level start to awaken the energy in the center of our body, which is the light of the soul that dwells within the central channel. So as we soften what's at the periphery and immerse ourselves in a vibration that feels, again, it feels peaceful, it feels sacred, it feels like it's holding you. When that happens, then that softness occurs on the internally, or the hug, or the sense of the sacred. Then all of a sudden the internal, there's safety within for the inner light to start to emerge. And that's the soul illuminating from the center of our being. And for empaths, sensitives, and intuitive people, we need that soul radiance and expansion in order to have strong energetic boundaries. Boundaries are, yes, on the outside, but the radiance is what holds the boundaries from the inside, holds our sense of self, our sense of presence, being present in our bodies and in the moment, being able to stay with ourselves. And that's really important to be able to, again, maintain that the energetic boundaries. So it becomes essential that we find those sacred spaces that allow us to have that moment of coherence that activates us in our coherence and our vibration, and it's able to help us stay centered and grounded in that moment. So these are important energetic experiences that are happening for the empath and the sensitive and intuitive person as we immerse in sacred spaces. I also want to add that I mentioned sacred moments. So it's not just the space. Sometimes it is getting out into nature and connecting with the real divine world, the mother, the earth mother, or the sacred divine around us. Looking at the sunset or the tree or the mountain can evoke, again, a sense of a deep breath, a soul food, a connection. I mentioned lighting a candle. You can also, sit on the earth, weather permitted. You can find a moment of silence in your day. You can take deep, full breaths, breathing in gratitude. You can close your eyes and tune into your own inner light. These are available to us at every single moment of every day. So let's practice right now, just closing our eyes and taking a sacred pause. As you breathe, invite your breath to fill all the way down to your belly. Inhaling fully, and as you exhale, invite your body to settle and relax and anchor down more to your seat. Feel your feet on the earth. And as you're breathing, if you can imagine that you are surrounded in this moment by an ambiance of sacred. And that could mean that you imagine that you're surrounded by angels, or you are in a location, maybe a temple, maybe it's the ocean, or a mountaintop, or a lake, or green grass. Somewhere that invokes a feeling of both your soul and the divine. And while you're there, and you breathe in the sacred in the form of a beautiful light that comes down to meet the center of your heart. And you can say hello to your soul. And invite your soul to take up more space in your body. To get bigger and brighter. And as your soul expands inside your body, notice what it feels like to be surrounded by the energy of the sacred. And at the same time, filled from within, radiating from within. Notice if a message comes through. From your inner light. Allowing that radiance to expand out to your skin. And that you are taking up space inside your body and being sourced by the divine light flowing through you as you're held in a sacred space. And you can carry this through your day by inviting a beautiful light, a golden colored light around the outside of your energy field. Your energy field is about 12 to 18 inches outside your body in circumference. You can invite light to surround it. and that you're held and protected. And that may this light nourish you as you go about your day, as you engage with others, that you are taking up space in your body. Grounded, held, and sourced by the sacred. Whenever you're ready, you can slowly start to open your eyes and you can maintain that connection. Sometimes in our peripheral vision or back of our mind, the awareness that you're held throughout your day in that sacred sourcing, and you can carry it with you wherever you go. So when empaths, sensitives, and intuitives find sacred moments and create sacred spaces in their lives, they end up being sourced more readily, being able to access and drop in and find their center and their grounding so that you can live in the world, again, more grounded and connected and having your soul internally sourced so you are radiating from the inside out. I hope this video supports you. It certainly is helpful as we go through the holiday seasons, through the holidays and any time throughout the year. I hope this supports you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.